Success begins with a clear vision and the relentless pursuit of that vision.
Yeah.
Visualize your goals and create a roadmap to achieve them. So visualization, roadmap, goal, just connect those concepts for me.
So the Olympics are every 4 years, right? And that's the ultimate goal, is getting to the Olympics, getting to the Olympic finals, getting on the podium. So in the 4-year increments that you have, there's a number of things that you have to achieve to ultimately get to the Olympics. So you break things down. So every year there's national championships in the United States and in most countries. There's the world championships in between the Olympics. There's the Diamond League competition. So there's all these things that are happening in that 4-year period before you get to the Olympics. So a lot of it is breaking down that 4 years and saying, ultimately, my goal is to be on the podium. I have to build up to that point, and there's incremental goals and milestones that I have to achieve during that journey. This is strategic planning.
Yeah.
Right. When you go back to a business, what's my 3-year strategic plan or 5-year, or whatever it happens to be for you as a business. If this is my revenue objective, I'm an acquisition-oriented company, for example. What are the acquisitions that are going to be accretive and additive to the business to help me get to that 3-year financial goal or market share goal, whatever it happens to be? And so the clearer you understand that, and the clearer the goals are and milestones along the way, then you're going to be more successful in achieving those goals. And so those are the types of conversations that we have with our clients. But you really have to need it, right? I mean, how badly do I want to achieve that business goal? The more you want it and the clearer the roadmap to get there, the higher the probability is of you being successful.
Bob West, welcome to Narrow Lanes.
Thank you for having me.
What do athletes do before a race that you think is critical to winning?
Couple things. First of all, in track and field, there's the game plan itself, right? It's, how am I going to execute the race? For example, if I'm running 5,000 meters, which is a 12 and a half lap race, the first thing I need to understand is, what's my objective? What's my the time that I want to race? And then based on who you are, the race plan can vary. So for example, there's people that will run at the back of the pack and move up periodically through the race. There will be other people that their race strategies go to the front, push the pack. So having a game plan for the race is number one. The second thing is visualization. So for example, when I race a marathon, I will walk through the marathon mile by mile before I step to the starting line. I will go through my mind, at mile 1, this is my time. Here's how I'm feeling. Here's who's around me. This is the climate that I'm running in. And based on that, then I'll make decisions in terms of, do I keep my same pace at mile 2, 3, 4, et cetera. A lot of the success in competing at a high level is based on your mindset, right? How are you approaching this mentally? I've gotten to the starting line in races where I just was not well prepared mentally. And the extreme example was, it's not going to happen today. So I dropped out of the race, which is not good, by the way. But mentally, if you don't come with the correct mindset and you're not ready to compete at the highest level, it's almost a formula for losing.
Talk to me more specifically about what that process of visualization actually looks like for you. Or Shannon, who we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah.
But when you guys are competing, in her case, at truly world-class level, is it closing your eyes, sitting comfortably, and actually playing through those scenarios? Is it something different?
Before I get to the starting line in the race, I will visualize it in its entirety. It is, in fact, walking through the whole race and understanding who is there, understanding who your competition is. So I'll give an example for Shannon. In 2016, she finished 4th. Shannon Roberry is my business partner. She's a 3-time Olympic finalist at 1,500 meters in track and field. So in 2016, that was her 3rd Olympics in Rio. She ended up finishing 4th in that race. And for most people, finishing fourth in the world is pretty good. In Shannon's mind, it was the worst position you could finish in because there's only 3 medals in the Olympics, right? And she didn't finish on the podium. She did not leave her room for 3 days because she was so upset about it. And one of the things that Shannon will do, in addition to visualizing before a race, is go through the lessons learned afterwards, right? And the approach for her is, what are the 3 things that I did that were good? So it's good, better, best. What are the 2 things that I could do better? And finally, what's the thing that will help me in the next race? Fast forward to the Zurich Weltklasse meet, which, if you're not familiar, there are 14 Diamond League meets in the world, which effectively are the most important meets outside of the World Championships and the Olympics. In 2016, the Diamond League Championships were split in between Zurich and Brussels, with the 1,500 meter race being in Zurich. So everyone from the Olympic race was there. Shannon applied the mistakes and the good, better, best mentality. If you've never seen the race, there's about a 3-minute clip of the last 3 minutes of the race, but Shannon ended up beating everyone. She won the Zurich Weltklasse meet, which was the Diamond League Championship. It was a combination of being properly prepared, both physically and mentally, and doing whatever it takes to win the race at the end.
Is it something where it's tactile, where there's texture to it? Or is it more of do you smell it? Do you feel it? Do you lean into the emotion? Because the word visualization is literally, I see something. I see it. Is it just about seeing and that almost taking that snapshot of crossing that finish line? Or is there depth to it around other senses?
It's the latter. It's a combination of everything above. So I think of visualization very broadly, right, where you can see it, but you have to feel it at a really deep emotional level. So, for example, I heard an interview of Gabby Thomas. Gabby won 3 gold medals, and one of the races that she won was 200 meters. In that interview, she said she already knew she was going to win the 200 meters. She prepared herself mentally so well that at a very deep emotional level, she knew she won the race before she got to the starting line, and that it was a function of executing the race.
Do you find this idea of visualization, which isn't just, I see that snapshot that we see in the newspaper, but I go through a whole, I imagine the process. Is that something that's actually, that you and Shannon were taught? There was a coach or someone at some point said, this is a skill that you need to develop and hone if you want to move from where you were before to that next level.
So when I was in high school, our high school track and field coach gave us a book called Cybernetics. I can't remember who wrote it. The book's focus is on explaining visualization. If you really get to the essence, you have to be both physically and mentally prepared for a race. Shannon has a broad set of people around her. So if you don't know who Shannon Robery is, professional runner for 15 years, Nike-sponsored athlete out of college, 3-time Olympic finalist, used to hold the American record at 1,500 and 5,000 meters in track and field, world record in the distance medley relay. To achieve that level of success, you need the proper team around you. So you need a coach, you need your support system in general, you need a sports psychologist, physio, massage therapist, et cetera. A good aspect of that is being in the right place mentally. If you extracted that sports psychologist from the equation, the probability of Shannon or any other athlete that performs at a high level performing at their best, the probability goes down.
You're saying that the psychologist helped the athlete go through probably a very rigorous visualization exercise.
Yeah, and it goes beyond visualization. You know, and it really depends on the personality of the person and how they are constructed mentally. You could take it to the extreme where someone is very gifted physically, but mentally they doubt their capabilities. And it could be for a variety of reasons. You know, you could have a toxic coach that tells you you're never good enough. It could be something that is part of your mental DNA. There are 2 objectives of a sports psychologist. One of them is to get the person in the right frame of mind and really understand their composition. And once you understand the composition of the person, then you can use a lot of psychology tools, whether it's visualization, picking up on cues. So during a race, for example, both Shannon and myself, we will use one-word cues. It's go time. It's pass someone during a race, right? So that becomes part of the race strategy and what you do during the race.
Obviously, these sports analogies are so relevant to business. And you have had a very successful business career. I'm just going to read it off. Chief Security Officer, Prisma Cloud, Palo Alto Networks. I mean, that's a very famous place. I think Keanu Reeves has an ad I've seen lately.
Keanu is part of the promotion right now.
He's part of the team.
It's pretty cool. Yeah,
he's part of the team.
Indeed.
Managing Partner, West Strategy Group, Managing Director, Cyber Risk Services at Deloitte.
Yep.
And you and Shannon now have your own program and a Medalist Mindset approach to leadership development.
Correct.
And obviously your whole career has been in cybersecurity, which couldn't be more relevant today. And you both bring a very interesting mix of experiences. You have a deep leadership and business skill set. She obviously is a world-class athlete. I just have not heard anyone in business talk about, closing my eyes and feeling and smelling and experiencing what getting to a goal looks like. Is this something that you have come across in your own career? How critical visualization is to achieving it maybe came from somewhere else altogether?
Yeah, so the answer is it comes from my background in sports. So I was telling you earlier that in high school, our coaches gave us or told us to read the book Psycho-Cybernetics.
Psycho-Cybernetics, not an easy title to remember, by the way.
Yeah, that was the application of visualization in sports. So I joined Bank One in November of 97, and about 3-4 months into my journey there, my bosses sat me down and said, we think you'd be a good member of the leadership team. And so we ended up putting together a 3-year development plan, which was a combination of things across the board. And it was a function of my goals. So in 3 to 5 years, I wanted to be 2 levels up at my boss's level. So we put together the development plan, went through the bank's leadership team. There were a number of other things that I did in addition to getting to know the leadership team, making sure that we knew each other well so that I could influence their behavior. And at least once and probably twice a week in that 3-year period, I would visualize myself in my boss's office. So what did it look like? What did it feel like? What was he doing on a day-to-day basis? So I ended up getting to that level in 3 years. And when I walked into the office, when it was mine, not only did I have the preparation in terms of leadership development, relationships within the organization, but because I was visualizing it, that really helped me to start doing my job from day one when I walked into the office. So long-winded way of saying the Medalist Mindset that we work on with our clients, that's one of the key components in terms of helping them be successful. Is really one of the principles is focusing on the mind so that in fact you can perform as effectively and efficiently as possible.
I will quote, "Success begins with a clear vision and the relentless pursuit of that vision.
Yeah.
Visualize your goals and create a roadmap to achieve them." So visualization, roadmap, goal, just connect those concepts for me.
Yeah, let me give you a sports analogy and a business analogy. So people at Shannon's level and in her professional track and field career, she worked in 4-year increments. So the Olympics are every 4 years. That's the ultimate goal is getting to the Olympics, getting to the Olympic finals, getting on the podium. So in the 4-year increments that you have, there's a number of things that you have to achieve to ultimately get to the Olympics. So you break things down. So every year there's national championships in the United States and in most countries. There's the world championships in between the Olympics. There's the Diamond League competition. So there's all these things that are happening in that 4-year period before you get to the Olympics. So a lot of it is breaking down that 4 years and saying, ultimately, my goal is to be on the podium in Paris in 2024, for example. So I have to build up to that point, and there's incremental goals and milestones that I have to achieve during that journey. And where I'm going with this is that this is strategic planning.
Yeah.
Right. When you go back to a business, what's my 3-year strategic plan or 5-year, whatever it happens to be for you as a business. If this is my revenue objective, if this is, I'm an acquisition-oriented company, for example, what are the acquisitions that are going to be accretive and additive to the business to help me get to that 3-year financial goal or market share goal, whatever it happens to be. And so the clearer you understand that, and the clearer the goals are and milestones along the way, then you're going to be more successful in achieving those goals. And so those are the types of conversations that we have with our clients. But you really have to need it, right? I mean, how badly do I want to achieve that business goal, right? The more you want it and the clearer the roadmap to get there, the higher the probability is of you being successful.
What I'm sensing is that your point about how badly do you want it, how badly do you need it. I see this so much with the brands that lean on us for success or people that report to me. Often the struggle is that I want it more for someone or for that brand than they want it for themselves. I mean, part of that is obviously just we're all different and we all apply different level of intensity to the things we do. But also, can that be actually induced? Can that I want it? Can that intensity be induced with that tactile, textured approach to visualization, or not? All that does is maybe all that visualization does is it just makes things clear.
So I'll respond with a couple of things. As a leader of your company and your team, if you inspire them to achieve their goal, and you can inspire them in a number of ways, whether it's your actions, whether it's helping them understand this is what it means to us when we achieve our goal, that's part of what you need to do. Now, visualization may or may not be part of that, but I would assert it would help you as a leader, as a team, to really visualize what does this mean? What's the journey? When we get there, what does it look like and feel like, right? There's all these different tools that you need to be successful. And some people may or may not need the visualization aspect of that. I think the majority of people do, but your strengths may be different than my strengths, right? And so as you look at your team, part of that analysis is understanding, are the people in the right roles? Do they have the right preparation? Do they have the right team chemistry? So, for example, when I hire someone, my general process is, when I talk to someone, is, do I like them? Are they qualified for this position? Do they have the capability to learn and the desire to learn? Are they a good fit from a team chemistry perspective? If they pass those criteria, then they're more than likely going to end up on my team.
Marketing often is about today versus last year, the same day.
Yeah.
This week, this month. It's very much about immediate gratification as measured by some revenue metric. And I often try to challenge people around me to think about, like you said, a 3-4 year goal. When you say, how badly do I want it? What I'm hearing is, what is really the goal I'm working towards, or what am I willing to almost bleed for a little bit?
That's right.
I know that in the Medalist Mindset, you and Shannon talk about resilience. Talk to me about the role of resilience in getting to that goal and executing on that roadmap.
Think of the business climate that we're operating in, right? What are the characteristics from an economic perspective, from a geopolitical perspective? What is the competition? Think of going through a SWOT analysis. That process helps you understand your weaknesses. It helps you understand your competition. It helps you understand the business climate that you're operating in. If I think of my background in cybersecurity, protecting information is one key to achieving business resilience, right? We have all these actors, bad actors, whether it's nation states, organized crime, ransomware gangs. So if you have the right cybersecurity ingredients, not just from a technology perspective, but from a process perspective, from an education perspective, the chances of you having the right level of business resilience goes way up. And it's just a function of the environment that we're operating in. Think of you're operating in a bad part of town. Pick your favorite city that has a high crime rate, for example.
Not Boulder.
Not Boulder. Thankfully, Boulder is not one of those cities.
Yes.
But when you're operating in a bad part of town, you take different steps to make sure that you're protected, right? You put better locks on the doors, right? You probably have either video cameras or more video cameras than you would when you're operating in a safe part of town. And that's what business leaders need to understand, is that from a technology perspective, from a cybersecurity threat perspective, we're operating in a bad part of town. And so you need to take some steps to protect yourself.
You know, as two middle-aged dudes, I remember martial law when I was a boy in Poland. I remember, this is a little embarrassing to admit, not having toilet paper. And I do often hear from leaders that this new generation isn't as strong as what we had to go through, because we had to go through these things.
Yeah.
Whenever someone says that, they're almost victimized by the next generation, and they almost divest responsibility for leading people and finding greatness in them. What are you hearing?
I hear a lot of different things, but let me give you my perspective on that statement. I think every generation is different. And I also think that people are making a gross generalization when they make statements like that, because people are different. You know, they're people that are not motivated. They don't have the self-motivation. They may have different skill sets than other people do. I mean, you go back to the Greek philosophers making statements about how this next generation will never achieve what we did.
Yeah, it's a cycle, it seems, right?
It absolutely is. You know, I think in my lifetime, the late 1960s during the hippies, where those hippies will never amount to anything, right? I seem to recall one or two people that have done pretty well. You know, one or two CEOs. I mean, I don't know. People right now are living in a different environment. When you look at teenagers and even going beyond teenagers, think of the impact of social media. And you have sexual extortion going on, for example. You have higher suicide rates as a consequence. There are different pressures that people have right now. I think a lot of it really goes back to what is your personal composition? What's the environment I grew up in? What examples am I seeing of success? And success can be defined in really different ways, right? It could be financial. It could be leading a good life, being a good person. But a lot of it is a function of the environment that you're growing up in. So I don't take much credence in the statement that this generation is weaker and they're not going to be successful.
Well, and they are the future. Right?
Absolutely.
I know it's so cliche, but when you and Shannon talk about the medalist mindset to business leaders, and you guys talk about building resilience, how do you talk to business leaders about building that mental toughness to give the team the grit to execute on those plans to get to that vision?
There's two aspects to that, right? One of them is, are you gelling as a team, right? Are you motivating people to say, this is our goal, and to reach that goal, we have to do that as a team, right? Everyone needs to be in the right positions, have the right skills, the right background, the right training. And if everyone has that right background and preparation and understands what the goal is, then as a team, as a business, you're going to be able to execute better, getting people in the right frame of mind. So you could take the extreme where you're a middle of the road company in a particular industry. For whatever reason, you're there. And your goal is to be a best-in-class company or number one in terms of market share. A lot of that is motivating people and helping them see the vision that we can get there as a company, right? And if people show up and go, yeah, we can never do that, you won't. The probability of your doing that goes way down.
let's just say increased market share or growth in revenues is my metric of success, then what I'm hearing you say is it's both about having that clarity around what that feels like. And also, I think having the mental toughness, aka resilience, coming from me and my team to react to situations which will be difficult.
Yeah.
It isn't always going to be great.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take one of the middle market companies that you're working with that's $1 billion in revenue.
Sure.
And let's say their goal is to have $2 billion in revenue in 5 years. What does that mean for us as a company, right? You know, what's the market share that we achieve? What's our profitability? You know, there's all these things. And if you don't approach it properly from a mental perspective, including having fun along the way, because life is just too short. My lens is that as you have milestones and as you are tracking towards that goal, if you're tracking properly and you hit those milestones, along the way, you should be celebrating it. You know, think of it from a mental perspective. If all you're doing is you're coming in, you're working as hard as you can, it becomes a drudgery very quickly. And so part of it is not just setting the goal, but also getting the buy-in. So for example, when I put together 3-year strategic plans, and in fact, Shannon and I also have a 3-year strategic plan for West Strategy Group. When I've put together strategic plans, I do it with a core team, right? The right people have to be around the table to do it. And once a draft is done, then everyone on my team gets to take a look at it. And the message will be, you know, we have this draft plan together. Does it make sense to you? Because someone on the front lines in a position, whether it's someone in the call center, in security operations, on a trading floor, they will more than likely have a different lens than you do. And as a consequence, they may see something that's very clear to them, but you as a leader might overlook that. But the other benefit of seeking people's input is they will have buy-in to that vision. If you just tell them, here's our strategic plan, go do it, from an emotional perspective, they won't have the same buy-in. If nothing else, they perceive that they've been heard and they have input to it.
Are there any stories that you and Shannon have seen in sports when it comes to the role of a teammate or coach in fostering teamwork or collaboration?
Yeah, absolutely. So in track and field, you know, if you think of a professional club, so like in Boulder, for example, there's Team Boss, which is led by Joe Bosshard. Thus the name Team Boss. He's Emma Coburn's husband.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and there are about a dozen people on Team Boss that are world-class distance runners, middle distance or distance runners. So on a day-to-day basis, these teams and Team Boss will work out together depending on who's where. So like a portion of Team Boss right now is in Europe racing. There's a group that's here right now, but there's typically there's a group that's training together because ultimately everyone has a very high and aspirational objective. And if we work together as a team on a day-to-day basis, we motivate ourselves. You know, today's a long run day, right? And sometimes if you wake up in the morning, it's like, why should I go out the door? But if you're running as a team, they will hold you accountable.
Yeah.
Right? The club that I ran in when I was living in Chicago, they would be very hard on me if I didn't show up and didn't have a good excuse for it. The notion of teammates, part of it is holding you accountable, but also going through the journey together because it's hard work. And everyone needs to do hard work to get to a very high level objective, right? So that's the team aspect of it. As an athlete-coach relationship, you're benefiting from the coach's experience and their lens of looking at you and understanding, are you doing the right workouts? Do you have the right preparation? Are you tracking properly? So ultimately it becomes a combination of both your teammates being part of the journey, being there with you, inspiring you, as well as the coach. There are more elements to that, but that's the relationship in an athletic context.
What I see, and I have really taken care not to repeat this mistake here at Delve, I see senior leaders who do have 20, 30 years of experience. something happens over time where if you stay the hell out of my area, let's say I'm the marketing leader, you're the finance leader, or you're the cybersecurity leader, I will stay out of your area. Mm-hmm. I will do my thing, you do my thing, don't ask me too many questions. I'm a professional, I'm an expert. That's why I am in this seat. That obviously smells of defensiveness and insecurity in some ways. Yet we show up this way. And then, but we're on a team together and you're my peer. Well, that's a little confusing. It's almost easier when I'm 22 years old. Mm-hmm. And then coach, someone telling me what to do, pointing out what I'm doing incorrectly. And yet in sports, absolutely coach will be, can I say, shitting on me. You said with Shannon earlier, she had a bad race in 2016, if I remember.
Correct.
And she reflected, I'm sure the coach and others told her and worked with her on learning from that experience.
Exactly.
And that's part of that process of being a world-class athlete. Mm-hmm. And then being part of a team is also something that is obvious. So there's a bit of I'm trying to reconcile all these concepts together because what you're saying is so clearly critical to succeeding as a world-class athlete. So teamwork and being coachable, I just don't see that happen often at the highest level in business. Is it me or have you had a different experience?
I think that the majority of companies don't understand the importance of bringing all the team together and collaborating to achieve success. So in the case of the billion-dollar company having the aspiration to be a $2 billion company in 5 years, you have to have all those people in line and understanding this is what we need to achieve. To your point earlier, the person that's the head of marketing, the person that's the head of finance or a general counsel, they're all in the same company, right, in this particular case. And if you're not working together to achieve that objective, it makes it much, much harder. I understand the dynamic that you were describing, and I agree that exists way too often.
Do you think that's a majority of cases?
I do
minority
think I do.
Or am I just making this up?
No, I think it is the majority, regretfully, and that really gets in the way of the companies being successful. I'll give you 2 examples in my experience, and let me back up a little bit before I say that. When I make decisions on where I'm going to work, the 2 most important things are the people and the culture. Do I like the people? Would I want to work with them on a day-to-day basis? I work best in a collaborative, inclusive culture. So that's part of my benchmark when I'm considering who to work with permanently or who to work with as a client. We have a no jerks policy. So we just do not work with jerks. And that's one of the things that I really like about Shannon and Maricela Garcia and Anna Segovia are also part of the team. We all are very self-motivated. We have a similar way that we work. And we're also very clear in terms of where we want to go. Mm-hmm. So I think back to your question in terms of what if everyone took the mindset where I'm in business development, I'm in marketing, and that would impact us significantly more because we're a team of 4. Mm-hmm. If we approached our business that way, it would be very hard for us to succeed at the level that we want. As Stephen Covey once said, common sense isn't necessarily common practice.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So I see, when I was at Deloitte, for example, very collaborative, inclusive cultures, same as Palo Alto Networks, which is why I worked there. And I think it's a function of, both Deloitte and Palo are some of the most successful companies in the world. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it is because of that mindset. And that also impacts retention. If you're putting the people in the right positions with the right background, with the right support, you're going to be more successful. I would also assert that this is something that's a tone at the top decision, right? Mm-hmm. In how people operate. If people are defensive, if people are autocratic and they say, you will do this and you'll like it, mm-hmm. as opposed to here's our goal. As a team, we're going to be successful. And here's what it means to us as a company, mm-hmm. to you as an individual. It's a different ballgame. Let me expand on that a little bit. I remember I met Tom Noonan in September of 95 when he was the number 2 employee at Internet Security Systems, which IBM acquired for $1.3 billion.
Okay.
2006, I think it was. It was somewhere in that neighborhood. Tom was the number 2 employee when I met him, and he grew the company to 1,300 employees when IBM acquired them. And one of the things that I will always remember, we were longtime customer. I was on the customer advisory board at ISS, so I was able to get to know a good number of people. But the thing I heard consistently from people at ISS was that Tom not only knew their names, but he knew the names of their family, what their situations were. And he is someone that people would bleed to support. So think of the contrast in between a collaborative, inclusive culture where you're getting the right inspiration versus an autocrat that's barking down the orders. You know, who do you think is going to achieve their objective, or who do you think is going to have a higher probability of success?
And what was again the gentleman's name?
Tom Noonan.
Tom Noonan.
Yeah.
I mean, Tom obviously cared, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, he obviously cared.
And he's done a number of things since then. So he started an investment fund, Tech Operators. He's based in Atlanta, with a couple of former Internet Security Systems people. He's now on the Intercontinental Exchange's board of directors, the parent company for the New York Stock Exchange, and has done, I forget how many boards he's on, but it's a gazillion. But the notion of long-term relationships and treating people well is a priority for him. So I think the same way where my relationships are long-term, and we talked about this, I think, shortly after we met, right? Where, you know, you're stuck with me for life. Now you could run like the wind, but I'm going to catch you.
I always like to bring these observations to some bigger framework. I was in Whole Foods the other day, and I sometimes will buy Harvard Business Review. There was a whole series of articles about leadership. 10 years ago and today, people care about leaders, and this is number one characteristic, looking like a leader, which I found, I guess it's just human, right? Like, it's just like saying taller people are seen as leaders, for example.
Yeah.
The second thing, which I really resonates with me, is authenticity. And I think what you're saying, and this is different, by the way. 10 years ago, authenticity was not on top 10 list of things that leaders are expected to exhibit. It wasn't even a list. And now it's number 2. How I interpret what you just said is that if I am authentically caring of my team and I authentically want to collaborate, that's what this is about. Caring is and knowing the names of spouses or partners and children at key events is a function of me authentically caring of those around me.
Absolutely.
And it's not, you can't fake it.
Yeah. I'll give you an example on the other end of the spectrum. So I was on a call with the CEO of a company this morning, and he was espousing all the wonderful things that he's done and how great he is. And the probability of my working with him as a client is quite low.
Understood.
Right? But there's also the impact of my sense is how he treats the people at his company is similar, where he's beating his chest, right? So I think that there is a misconception about what a good leader is. That's my lens, where it's not that strong person that's barking down the orders. The correct lens, I would assert, is that a good leader inspires people. They are there for them. They give them the right tools to be successful. They bring them together. They create a common vision and make sure that people buy into it, and they include people in painting that vision. That's a completely different dynamic than the very strong autocratic leader, which in my mind doesn't work in the long term.
Now, obviously, I am checking the boxes when it comes to the medalist mindset, because you and Shannon and others who collaborated with her, who developed this framework, you guys have spent, I would imagine, thousands of hours collectively nailing this down. And so far, we spoke about the importance of visualization and goal setting. We spoke about really mental toughness or resilience. We spoke about what I interpret to be the role of authenticity and caring in fostering collaboration and teamwork. I want to make sure we get to the next two items before we finish, which is continuous improvement. And you say that athletes continually refined their techniques. Why are athletes so willing to refine their techniques?
There's big stakes, right? If you think of Shannon's case, the goal is to make an Olympic team or set a world record or an American record. If your aspirations are in that neighborhood, then you really need to be focused in understanding, what am I doing right now? What's working well? What's not working well? Think of root cause analysis.
Yeah.
We call it prehab. The more that you can understand what's working well and what's not working well, you can continue to refine what you're doing as an athlete or as a business, right? And the better you understand that and really understand, how can I improve what I'm doing, whether it's doing more long runs or doing different types of workouts, that's going to help you be that successful. If you don't have that level of focus as a high-performing athlete, then the probability of you achieving your goal goes way down. And it's the same thing in business, right? It's you have to have really clear definition in terms of what your goal is as the business. And then you work backwards in terms of understanding, what's the team that I need? How do I go to market? How do I communicate my value proposition as clearly as possible? What are the barriers to entry in the business? And if they're high, how do I get there?
I think I need to have the willingness, the openness to not just experience, let's say, these meets or competitions or failures or wins, but to actually reflect and learn from those experiences.
Yeah.
And my observation of life in general, at work, with my friends, with people I care about, is that we often are forgetful of the experiences we've had.
Yeah.
And we just kind of want to move on.
Yeah.
Because reflection sometimes is a little painful. Are you saying that athletes, high-performing athletes, reflect a lot?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. You don't win every race. Well, most of us don't. Not even the best ones in the world. I mean, even right now, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, he didn't even medal in the 1500 at the Olympics in Paris, where he was one of the heavy favorites. But he won the gold medal in the 5,000. So I am sure that Jakob was reflecting on, what did I do wrong in that race? What could I have done better? Yeah, a lot of it is just reflection like that. I remember Shannon's last year in college was in 2007. And right after the indoor NCAA championships, she developed a stress fracture in her hip, which in many cases is a career-ending injury. So Shannon is a really analytical person and really did some analysis in terms of trying to understand, why did I get that stress fracture? Because it's a chronic injury, right?
Yeah.
From running hundreds or thousands of miles over a given period of time. As it turns out, one of her legs is shorter than the other, primarily due to a childhood injury. And so she ended up getting orthotics, getting some physical therapy. So the orthotic is an insert in your shoe that ultimately compensated for the difference in leg length. She did not have a material injury for about 10 years after that. But the other thing that was interesting was this stress fracture happened a year before her first Olympic trials in 2008. And so she didn't run for about 3 months, if I'm remembering correctly, and built back up. So everyone wrote off Shannon's chances of making the Olympic team. And not only did she make the Olympic team, but she crushed the competition in the Olympic trials. And a lot of it was due to root cause analysis, being reflective, understanding, how do I fix this problem, this chronic issue that caused the stress fracture in the hip?
In Medalist Mindset, the last step is health and well-being. Now, let me understand something. I'm a world-class athlete. Sure, I need to sleep well and I have a team around me who helps me. But I imagine there is a certain amount of obsessiveness and being unreasonable that I need to lean into to actually perform at that level and have a shot at getting a podium. And yet you and Shannon talk about health and well-being. Help me reconcile these two emotions.
So a couple things in terms of, if you don't take care of yourself, then you're not going to perform as well as you could, whether it's in sports or in business. So let's say, for example, you're going out partying every night, you're doing your workouts, but you're having a lot of fun in the evening. That will not help you in terms of achieving your goal. I'll give you an extreme example in the business world. So I had a client, the COO was working 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. Do you think the COO was making good decisions? Think of when you have a chronic issue with lack of sleep, right? It's not just impacting your ability to make decisions, but also it's impacting you physically.
Sure.
Right? And if you don't take care of yourself, number one, you don't get enough sleep, you're probably not going to perform as well as you can in the boardroom or in any role in business, right? Rest is part of the formula of being successful. So if you don't sleep enough, you don't give yourself the right recovery days as an athlete, and you keep on pressing, you'll either get hurt or you won't perform at the level that you could. And the same thing holds true in business.
If we're to zoom out, of the 5 key principles that you and Shannon educate the market about, is there one that you've seen boil up lately more than the others? Is there something that you're seeing leaders ask you to address or just share with you maybe privately as something that they care to lean into more than other principles?
Well, they're all important. They're additive. But if there were one that I would say comes up most frequently in a business context is the team. If you don't hire the right people and you don't put them in the right positions and you don't give them the support, then as a business, you're not going to perform as well as you could. So a lot of it becomes focusing on the team. Going back to the example of a $1 billion company wanting to get to 2 billion. So what's the team that I need to get there, right? It's probably going to be different or additive to the team doing business as a $1 billion company, right? But if you don't give them the right support, you don't put them in the right roles, they're not going to be as successful as they could be.
I mean, that makes sense to me because you're talking about this idea of leveraging whether I work 40 hours a week or in my case, probably 60. But I can do more. And the only way for me to leverage as a leader my impact is with a strong team. And I mean, that's something that I continuously try to get better at. And I feel like I'm getting better, which is getting to my goals as a CEO, a marketing leader, or a cybersecurity leader through the people that report to me.
And it's a journey. I mean, a lot of it is reflection, self-discovery, right? Am I doing the right things both for myself and for my team? If you're working, in the case of the COO that was working 20 hours a day, number one, it's a function of not taking care of yourself, but you probably need more people around you to be successful.
Well, and there's a huge difference between pushing and being the hero with 1,000 followers versus being someone who's more in the back of the room, cheering their team and celebrating their wins and giving them that role clarity and that fun and joy. Right? The emotion is totally different. And I think what you're saying is, and yet that's what's most critical.
I mean, I'll give you a good example from when I was CSO at Fifth Third Bank. We had a formal project plan for practical jokes, and and the team the team would pick out who the recipient of all the love was.
Wow!
Everyone's working hard, and if you're going to work hard, you may as well have fun, right? And part of it is just really helping people gel as a team. But life is short, and if you don't have fun.
Well, Bob West, thank you so much. Medalist Mindset. I'm sure that if someone is looking for leadership training or wants to be inspired about how to get to the next level of performance, they can look you up online or Shannon. Or they can just type Medalist Mindset into Google, and they will find a way to get in touch with you.
Yeah, for sure. Or go to our website at West Strategy Group.
Wonderful. Bob West, thank you so much.
Thank you, Greg.